Hi everyone, I'm Lauren Adrian with Tykes&Teens, and I am here with our Director of School-Based Services, Andrea Greenlee. Hi Andrea.
Good morning.
So Andrea had what I thought was a really great idea to share some information with everyone, and that is to talk a bit about how we can all be more resilient during this crisis and also give ourselves a little bit more grace in that we're dealing with really unprecedented times and a lot of change. And I know that I've seen a lot of people being really hard on themselves. And we wanted to specifically talk a little bit about teachers who are really faced with just such a tough job these days, and parents as well who are having to, as Andrea, as you said to me yesterday, wear so many different hats. You know, I've got to be the parent. I've now kind of got to be the teacher. I've got to work from home. It's just a lot of change. So Andrea has some great advice for all of us about how we can be a little bit more resilient and get through this crisis together.
Yes. Well, so I was kind of motivated to do this because one time this week I was working and I was overhearing my son do some of his classwork. And I think one of her children came into the screen, and I just chuckled because to me, that's real life. It shows where we are. And I was just hoping that the teacher felt that she could laugh about that as opposed to feeling badly. And so that's what kind of prompted me to be thinking about the fact that the teachers are not giving themselves enough credit for what they've had to do in the span of the past 3 weeks. You know, no one expected things to be like they are. And then once we realized the big change was coming, within 2 weeks, they managed to change their whole teaching approach. And I feel like the concentration needs to be placed on look at what we've done and what we've accomplished as opposed to the end product. And so I was looking on Facebook, and they have a lot of great TED Talks. And one of the ones that I found was by Lucy Hone, who is a resiliency researcher. And she had 3 questions to ask in trying times to kind of make sure that you're being your most resilient self. And the first question, well, it's not even a question, it's really more of a statement, and that is that life is filled with suffering. And right now, as a collective whole, we are all suffering. Our lives are very different and they're challenging. But if you have the knowledge that we go through periods of this in our life, it becomes a little more easy to manage. The second question is, this is kind of more of a statement too, that we need to choose what we're paying attention to. It's very easy to get frustrated with Zoom not working right, or the technology not working right, or our kid coming in and interrupting our time. And it's kind of it's a survival technique that we look at negative things at things negatively. So it kind of keeps us safe. But if we really choose what we pay attention to, whether it's I had an opportunity to engage that student in a way that I hadn't in the classroom, it kind of switches to a more grateful place. And then also monitoring how we're spending our time. If our free time is spent just watching the news, that may not help us. Right. So making sure that whatever you are doing and whatever you're engaging in is helping you and not hurting you. So those are 3 kind of ideas.
Yeah, those are great. I mean, what I'm hearing is that it's a lot of reframing. You know, how do I reframe this so that I'm focusing on the positive? And I love what you said about, for teachers, maybe thinking about the ways that they're being able to reach some kids differently. You know, I've had that experience with one of my kids who I have seen is really enjoying this way of doing school. It's really working better for her in a lot of ways, and removing some of the sort of social struggles that she was having in school lately. So
Right.
um, it's it, it's been really great. And, she's had a lot of teachers reach out to her individually, and so I just hope those teachers are giving themselves credit, like you said.
Yeah.
They really are finding some unique ways and connecting with kids differently, maybe, but in some really great ways.
Well, and I think that's a good part too, is I know, we talk about planting seeds all the time. And even though it may not seem significant to a teacher that they are making this effort to engage a kid every week, I think when we're through this, people are going to look back and realize, that teacher never gave up on me. She called me every Monday. She checked in. And I think they're really demonstrating how much they care about kids and how much they love teaching, because they're rolling with this.
Yeah.
And I just think it's really important that teachers acknowledge that and see, wow, pat themselves on the back. I'm really doing a good job.
Right.
And if something screws up, then laugh about it and move on, because nothing is predictable anymore. We are living in the midst of craziness.
Yes, and the good thing about it is that for once we are all living the same craziness. And so I think we have an opportunity to connect during this disconnect in that way.
Yes, I would agree.
Yes. So let me ask you, do you have any suggestions for ways that parents can be more supportive of teachers during this time, or just sort of help them not be so hard on themselves and show appreciation?
I think as a parent, it's important to recognize the situation that we find ourselves in. This is not going to school. We are trying the best we can. And so, maybe they won't complete the class like they were supposed to, but there's still value in marching forward and continuing to try. So I guess maybe lower the expectations a little bit and really just know that keeping that same structure, keeping the child engaged in some way, that's where the value is, not necessarily, and demonstrating and modeling, what we do in a time of crisis, that there's value there too. So, we may not be learning specific subject matter right now, but we're learning an awful lot about life.
Right.
And the teachers are demonstrating a lot of great things.
Great. So what else can you share sort of about some ways that maybe that we can model resilience for our kids during this crisis?
Well, I like to kind of catch myself. I tell the funny story. I went to BJ's and rice was not on my list, but everyone else was buying rice. And before I left, I'd bought 25 pounds of rice. So that's kind of, we laugh about that here at the house. Like, that was my impulse buy. But, I try to catch myself when I start to feel a little anxious, and it's always been helpful to me. I'm always about the 3 questions, but to ask myself, is this a temporary or a permanent situation? And luckily, this is not a permanent situation. Once they get vaccines and some more testing, things will hopefully return back to normal. So knowing that it's not permanent is helpful. Is this all of my life or part of my life? Schooling is only part of our life. And I've already talked about how we're really teaching a lot of great lessons in that part of our life. And then, is it all of my life, part of my life, temporary or permanent? Is it in my control or out of my control?
Don't worry, I'm giving you grace, and we're going.
Thank you. And so, kind of recognizing there are a lot of this problem is outside of our control, but knowing what is in our control and managing those parts, like I can get up and walk around the neighborhood in the morning and start my day off right. I can contact my friend I'm worried about. I can, there's a lot of things. I can wash my hands and wear a mask, so there's ways of kind of giving ourselves the control back that we need during this crisis too. And right. I think if we're demonstrating that for our families, we're doing an awful lot.
Great. Well, is there anything else on this topic that you want to share with us?
I admire so greatly the teachers and the principals and all the hard work to get food to people. I mean, it really is a beautiful thing that our community is doing, and I just think they need to recognize it and give themselves a pat on the back because they're doing a lot of work.
I agree. And sometimes in the worst of times is when you see the best of humanity, and we're seeing a lot of that. And, you know, I would hope that one of the many good things that will come out of this will be a greater respect for teachers and for school administrators. So
Yeah.
that's one of those, you know, positives that we can look for. Well,
Yes.
thank you for sharing this with us. You know, I always admire your ability to find the positive in every situation, both as a coworker, as a friend, as a parent. That's something that I love about you. And if I could bottle that and sell it, I would be a millionaire. So thank you for sharing that spirit with us, because we all need that right now.
Thank you so much. Thanks for taking your time to ask me these questions. And thank you, Martin County teachers and administrators. You guys are rock stars.
Yes, you're amazing, all of you. Thank you so much. Much respect. Have a great day. Stay safe, everyone.
Bye.